The dark truth of nihilism. There are truths so heavy, so unrelenting, that humanity has spent centuries building walls of faith, philosophy, and culture just to keep them at bay. One of these truths is nihilism. It is not a passing doubt, not a mere intellectual curiosity. It is an earthquake beneath the foundations of meaning itself. A haunting suspicion that everything, our morals, our gods, our achievements, even our sense of self, might be built on sand. Imagine standing at the edge of an infinite void. Not darkness. Darkness implies something beyond it. Not silence. Silence suggests sound could return. This void is pure absence. A nothingness so total that even the thought of it threatens to dissolve the thinker. This is nihilism. Not just a word, but a shadow that has followed humanity since it first began to question itself. It does not shout. It whispers. And its whisper is always the same. What if nothing truly matters? What if there is no foundation beneath your feet? What if existence itself is a trick of the mind? The birth of nihilism. The word nihilism comes from the Latin nihil, meaning nothing. But the fear of meaninglessness predates the name by millennia. The ancient Greeks wrestled with skepticism. Philosophers like Pyrrho doubted whether we could know anything with certainty. Eastern traditions, like Buddhism, spoke of niyat, emptiness. But unlike Western nihilism, this was not despair. It was liberation. In the West, however, nihilism began to take on a darker tone. By the Enlightenment, science and reason were dismantling old religious certainties. Empires and monarchies fell. Churches lost their absolute authority. The modern age was being born, and with it, a sense of dislocation. In 1862, Ivan Turgenev's novel Fathers and Sons introduced the term nihilist to describe a young Russian radical, Bazarov. Bazarov rejected all traditions, religion, morality, art. He trusted only reason. But Turgenev's character wasn't just a rebel. He was a symbol of a generation facing a spiritual vacuum. In 19th century Russia, real-life nihilists took this philosophy into politics. They opposed the Tsar, challenged social hierarchies, and dreamed of a new world. But their rebellion was rooted not only in hope, but in despair. When you destroy every value, what is left to hold on to? Nietzsche and the death of God. No philosopher captured this crisis like Friedrich Nietzsche. He saw the modern world clearly, and he saw its danger. God is dead, Nietzsche wrote, and we have killed him. This was not a celebration. It was a diagnosis. For centuries, morality and meaning had been anchored in faith. But now, science and skepticism had eroded those foundations. And humanity was left unmoored. Nietzsche predicted two paths forward. 1. Humanity would collapse into despair, clinging to false idols, or drowning in nihilism. 2. A new kind of human, the Übermensch, or Overman, would rise. Someone who could stare into the void, reject illusions, and create new values. Nietzsche himself struggled with this vision. He spent his life in solitude, writing feverishly, haunted by illness and mental collapse. His words were not detached philosophy. They were the cries of a man who had stared into the abyss and barely returned, i.e. the many faces of nothingness. Nihilism is not a single thought. It is a cathedral of doubt. Each chamber reveals a deeper layer of nothingness. Let us walk through these chambers, slowly, carefully. Metaphysical nihilism, the void beneath reality. Metaphysical nihilism begins with a devastating possibility. What if nothing exists? We take existence as a given. But philosophers have long doubted it. Thinkers from Parmenides to Descartes questioned what being even means. Modern metaphysics has even entertained the idea of a possible world with no objects. No matter. Not even space or time. The universe, science tells us, emerged from a quantum vacuum. Of nothing that gave birth to something. But if nothing can give rise to something, can we ever truly say that anything is solid? Permanent? Or real? Metaphysical nihilism strips away the illusion of solidity. It whispers, all that you see, touch, and hold dear is as fragile as a dream. Epistemological nihilism, the death of truth. If metaphysical nihilism shakes reality, epistemological nihilism shakes knowledge. It asks, can we truly know anything at all? The philosopher Sextus Empiricus in ancient Rome wrote that certainty is impossible. Every argument can be countered by another. Every perception can be doubted. Even science, our modern religion, admits this. Its laws are provisional, its truths are only models of reality. We live in a hall of mirrors, building one uncertain theory on top of another. In the digital age, this skepticism has intensified. Information is infinite, but truth is elusive. What is real? What is fake? What is knowledge, when every fact is buried beneath 1,000 lies? Epistemological nihilism is not ignorance. It is a deep awareness that certainty is an illusion. And with that awareness comes a creeping instability. Moral nihilism, the collapse of good and evil. If truth itself is unstable, what about morality? Moral nihilism argues that good and evil are human inventions. History supports this. One culture condemns what another celebrates. Practices once seen as virtuous, like slavery or public executions, are now viewed with horror. Our moral codes are not fixed, they shift with time, power, and perspective. Nietzsche traced morality to power dynamics. He argued that our moral values were tools of control, invented by the weak to restrain the strong. Morality, in this light, is not truth. It is strategy. Dostoevsky saw the danger clearly. In The Brothers Karamazov, Ivan declares, if God is dead, everything is permitted. Without an external moral authority, morality becomes fragile. And in that fragility, chaos waits. Existential nihilism, the emptiness of life itself. And then we arrive at the deepest chamber. Existential nihilism. This is not abstract theory. It is a weight that has crushed countless souls. It says life has no inherent meaning. That our existence is a cosmic accident. That every dream, every achievement, every love will vanish. Philosophers like Schopenhauer felt this despair deeply. He saw life as a cycle of suffering, driven by blind, meaningless will. Camus would later call it the absurd. Our hunger for meaning, met by a silent, indifferent universe. The scale of time intensifies this despair. In a few generations, none of us will be remembered. In 1 billion years, Earth itself will be gone. In the end, all stories end in silence. Existential nihilism is not a thought you read in books. It is a shadow you feel at night, when the noise of life fades. And you are left with yourself. The human response to nothingness. The history of philosophy is, in many ways, humanity's attempt to escape nihilism. Religion promised purpose. Science promised truth. Politics promised progress. But none could erase the whisper of nothingness. Nietzsche confronted it head-on. He warned that without God, humanity risked falling into despair, or worse, into tyranny. Dostoevsky dramatized this fear in his novels, drawing on his own prison years in Siberia, where he saw human cruelty stripped bare. Camus, writing after 2 world wars, saw nihilism not as a distant threat, but as a living reality. He urged us to rebel against it, not with violence, but with courage. The 20th century is proof that meaninglessness is not just a personal struggle. Totalitarian regimes exploited spiritual emptiness to control the masses. When values collapse, people become desperate for any ideology that offers certainty. And in that desperation, horrors are born. Embracing the void. Yet, within nihilism lies a strange gift. If life has no inherent meaning, then we are free to create it. Nietzsche's Übermensch is not a tyrant, but a creator of values. Camus' Sisyphus does not despair, he smiles. Even Dostoevsky, despite his warnings, believed redemption could be found in love and faith. Nihilism strips life to its bones. It removes illusions. But it also reveals possibility. We are not bound by destiny. We are not puppets of fate. We are terrifyingly free. The silent truth. Nihilism is not an enemy to be destroyed. It is a mirror we cannot avoid. It shows us that everything we cling to, beliefs, morality, identity, is fragile. But in that fragility lies the truth of our condition. We are small. We are temporary. And yet, we can choose to create, to love, to act. Meaning is not given. It is forged. And perhaps, that is more beautiful than any illusion we once believed.